friends to my right. Got the open sky above me and the earth beneath my feet. Got a song inside my heart that's singing oh, what a day. Oh, what a day, glorious. All the clouds have gathered round the tops of trees. Oh, what a day, glorious. Bitter patter, falling rain, I can't believe. All that's green lifts up its leaves, singing water coming in. We've been waiting all these days, praying you would come to quench every yearning in our bones. Water with life begins. Oh, what a day. Oh, is believing. Has the wings of faith. Is a clear river of receiving. All is well. This is a friend history. Oh, what a day, glorious. Baby blue jays walking in the cherry trees. Oh, what a day, glorious. Deep in the night, we had a raccoon robbery. Bitter past, little boys have left their footprints all around. Bitter past, evidence some fruit has fallen to the ground. Bitter past, sings my heart at the thought of what's to come. What a day.
All right, we'll do another workshop here. Cups, Spirit. Let's see, the full name of this is Spirit. Remind me.
This is a workshop on the work that reconnects, but it's sponsored by our Pacific Spirit Cups.
Pacific
group.
Spirit Cups, which is which is connected to Pacific Unitarian Church. Cups is more of the national word.
Covenant of UU pagans.
Yep. So I'm gonna we're as part of this whole conference, Kiki Wiley is going to do a workshop on cups, and we look very much forward to your presentation and all of your activities here with this workshop. Thank you, Kiki.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I am Kiki Wiley. The song that was playing is, the words are, "We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It's time now. It is time now that we thrive. It's time we lead ourselves into the well. It's time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love." So, as Dell said, I'm Kiki Wiley. My work these days is at the intersection of sacred arts, healing, and earth-based spirituality. On the board here at PUC, involved in social justice, and our Pacific Spirits Covenant of UU Pagans is a subgroup of social justice, and our focus is on earth-based spirituality, as well as things like green sanctuary and climate justice. So today, I brought you this workshop called The Work That Reconnects. And it's been a big touchstone for me since I was first introduced to it. It was like an epiphany. It changed my life. I was listening to a podcast, and it's work that was developed by Joanna Macy. Does anybody have familiarity with that name? A couple people? Yeah, a couple people. She passed away last year after dedicating her life really to this work. But I was listening to the podcast, and when it was over, I was like, it flipped everything for me. The idea is that hope is action, that hope is not an emotion, and it's a choice. Hope is a choice. So in these days, it's easy to feel hopeless or to describe your feeling as hopeless. So just that little shift in how we think of hope as a verb made a big difference for me. And I wanted to share it with you. So I went through, there's kind of two components that are woven together here. The one component is this idea of active hope and how you can do that, how you can do hope, if you will. But it fits within this framework called The Work That Reconnects, that she developed and I think it's really helpful for all of us to kind of have like a step-by-step process. So this isn't really theory. This is a way that you can move in the world. Now, I did an 8-week free online active hope training that any of you are also free to find and do. And I'm going to try to bring this all down into a very digestible hour for you. So anything that I'm going to bring to the table and talk to you about, there's probably a whole week on it in the program. So let's begin. I wanted to start with a grounding practice. So let's just take a breath. And if you're comfortable to put both feet on the ground, and maybe for today, your palms up in your lap to receive. So come to this with an open heart, with an open mind. And we're going to imagine as we inhaling the oxygen, the air into our body, and it's fine to soften your eyes. See it coming through your whole body down into your feet, and from your feet down into the earth, taking root. And take another breath. Seeing those roots go down into the earth. And as you exhale, pulling that nourishing energy from the earth, from our mother, back up into your body, grounding, and out through the top of your head into the heavens. So another time, breathing in, connecting with all the ancient roots, interconnectedness of the earth, and exhaling, lengthening our spine up to the heavens, into that infinite expansion, connecting with all that ever was, is, or will be. And let's do 3 more breaths without me talking, envisioning that. And in yoga, we have our root chakra that connects us to the earth. That's from our hips, bottom of our spine, our hips into our legs. And our crown chakra that hovers just above our head, that connects us with all life, all entities, the stars, the moon, the infinite, the mystery. And in between, right above our belly, is our solar plexus. And that's our core, our core strength. But it's our ability to act. It's our ability to move through the world. So I like to think of this meditation of rooting, grounding, and expanding our crown as the way that we can move into the world. So our solar plexus then engages, and we can walk and we can act and we can be and take action without being swept away. You know, that feeling that maybe you want to try something and then anxiety comes over, or you try something and it doesn't work, you get overwhelmed. And I like to think of it as a feeling of getting swept away from our intention, swept away from our purpose. So if we have that connection to the earth and the heavens and we engage our core, we can move out of that fight, flight, or freeze or fold idea. And the things can still happen, and we can see them and we can observe them, but they don't take us away. So Joanna Macy said that we belong to the world, not as visitors, not as problems to be solved, as members, as kin. The web of life is not something we observe from the outside. We are woven into it, thread by thread and breath by breath. So let that feeling come into your body. And next slide, please. So we're fine on this slide. Each slide has this spiral, and the spiral is the work that reconnects. And at the beginning of the spiral is gratitude, and then honoring our pain. And I think honoring our pain is really the key component to this, because as with anything else in life, if you can't complete your grief cycle, it's very hard to move on. But in the world today, in the society and the culture that we live in, you know, if you start grieving about the state of the planet, the state of the world, a lot of people don't want to hear it. You're like a buzzkill, a Debbie Downer. So here is this is something you can do on yourself, or you do for yourself, or you can do with other people. But today we're going to start with the gratitude. Then we'll move into really honoring our pain. And then the next step is seeing with new eyes. And we're going to do some interactive exercises along the way that I will ask you to come with an open heart, open mind, and be able to, like you're moving into a fantasy movie, science fiction, whatever, a little suspension of disbelief. And then the last part is going forth. So right now, I want you to turn to a person next to you and take a minute before you start. And I just want to hear, why are you glad to be alive right now? What is the reason that you're glad to be alive right now? Oh, a couple words, a sentence. So wait, get it in your head. And then, why are you glad to be alive right now? One word, one sentence. Share with someone else. If there's not someone next to you, the person behind you, or come up and tell me. Just a couple minutes. Mm. And do we have a handheld microphone? Just maybe 2 or 3 people who want to share their answer. One thing I love about being alive right now is, raise your hand. Penny.
Being with my fellow friends at church and being with my fellow friends at church and fellow citizens.
Beautiful. Someone else?
Being able to share this particular stage of my life with dear friends that are going through the same things and sharing the journey and knowing we're all supported together.
Wonderful. Maybe one more.
We'll make you get your exercise.
For me, it's being here in this beautiful sanctuary, and we have a very, very, very small group in Victorville. This is the kind of place I want to be, and it fills my soul up.
Beautiful.
And thank you for all you guys are doing.
Beautiful. So this is why we're here. This is what we want to protect. This is what we want to hold close. So hold it close. Put your hands over your heart, and whatever your answer was, remember, that's why we need to move forward. So the next slide, I'm going to take you through just one other component of the work that Reconnects. And the premise is that there are 3 stories happening simultaneously, always in life. And those stories end up having different weight and different effect on us as a civilization, as humanity, but also as individuals. So the first is business as usual. You know, this idea that growth is essential and we have to keep buying stuff and climbing the ladder or upgrading our house or our car, and the other things going on in the world, they'll sort themselves out eventually. And, you know, there's other things we need to focus on. We need to focus on our families, making a living, our own shelter, our own well-being, because of course, that is what we need to do. The second one is the great unraveling, and that's ecosystem collapse, rights under siege, information overwhelm. So we have ecological, democratic, social, ground shifting under things that we thought were solid. And this story is true, but it's not the whole truth. And the third one, the great turning. And I think that speaks the most to all of us and why we're here and why we're Unitarians and why we want to band together. Because banding together, we can make a difference. So this is the transition. It's already underway towards a life-sustaining civilization. And the stuff that's happening doesn't always make the news. It's not the headlines. We have to look for it. We have to dig for it, but it is happening. We know it's happening in our communities, and there's bigger stories out there. It's happening in this room. So to make this real, who was here last night? With Susan Ritchie. Okay, so we're mirroring each other a little bit. Some of the examples are the same, but the way into them is different. So I thought I would bring this to life based upon what was going on in Minneapolis not that long ago. So the Mall of America is in Minneapolis. Like the biggest, I think it has a amusement park inside of it. I've never been. Who's been? Yeah, it's crazy. So growth is essential. It'll sort itself out, focus on work life. So that might have meant in Minneapolis for many people that, it's going to work. It's dropping the kids off at school. It's the hum of the city. It's getting your morning latte because that's your routine. That's what you do. But then we saw the great unraveling. We saw the unraveling that we know is happening live on television. So rights under siege, information overwhelm, misinformation, a community living in fear, people who were innocent bystanders basically witnessing losing their lives, and the loss of constitutional protections just gone. And then the great turning. And so Susan talked about this last night as well, but care over extraction, power with community, creative action. And I'm just going to focus on this one part, which is the whistles. So teachers organized the whistle brigades. 2 short blasts to warn neighbors that agents are near, 1 long blast when someone is being taken, a vintage shop owner opening her store to hand out whistles, but also for diaper drives, pledging her sales to families in need, people organizing to drop off immigrants' children at school. And of course, we know about, or if you weren't here last night, a large contingent of UU ministers showing up within 5 days. So it was true that a lot of these networks were in place. Like we're a network. The UU ministers were able to reach out, and did she say 250 people came within 5 days? So that we already have some infrastructures in place, and that's what they're there for. So this is the great turning. This is the opposite of the unraveling, or the reaction to the unraveling. And sometimes it makes itself up of 1,000 little acts. Maybe 1,000 people had whistles. Maybe 5,000 people had whistles. A person had a whistle, and that empowered them. They felt active. They were able to step forward and engage with other people to make a difference, to push back. And they were successful, maybe not as successful as we would have liked, but they were successful. So the question is, and we'll ask this a couple times along the way, think about these 3 stories: business as usual, great unraveling, the great turning. What percentage does each one hold in your heart and mind right now? And that can change from morning to night. Just think about it. And we'll move on to the next slide, honoring our pain. It's the best part. Nobody wants to do it, but it's really good. So we began with gratitude, what we love, what we are alive for. And now we move into the one in the culture at least wants to skip. A lot of our friends or family might want us to skip, honoring our pain for the world. And a lot of times we feel like grief is a weakness or despair is a dysfunction, that there's something wrong with us that we need to fix. But here we say that weight of what is happening isn't what's wrong with us. It's what's wrong with the world. Our pain for the world is not a pathology. It's a measure of our love. How much we love the things that we mentioned before, this beautiful planet, the adorable little goats out there. So sweet. And I've been coming here almost every day this week, and they sort of move around. And every time I see them near the street, there's like a line of cars with parents with the little children looking over the fence, just delighted to see the goats. So our pain for the world is similar to if the world was our family, if we're of the world, if the world was our mother, if we are of her and she is of us and we are made of her. There's so many layers there that our ancestors were very connected with, and I don't mean us individually, but we as a society, especially in this country, seem to have shifted away from that. And it's that feeling that the web is tearing. It's that feeling of the unraveling that might make us go there. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to come down, and I've got some baskets here. And in the baskets are, next slide, please. In the baskets are rocks with these words painted on them: grief, loss, heartbreak, sorrow, dread, numbness, longing, and despair. And pick a rock, and if it's not exactly the right rock for you, it doesn't matter because you're holding it for all of us. But there's a lot of rocks, so you have choices. And so I'll pass them around. Choose your word, look at your word, let it land. And I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to play this song. And just sort of meditate on the word and the feeling that it brings up for you. Also, there's rock, and there's a white paint pen, and there's index cards and pens. So take a rock, a white paint pen, an index card, and a pen, please. One of each. You gonna help me out? Thank you. Multitasking. Thank you.
You do not carry this all alone. This is way too big for you to carry this on your own. So you do not carry this all alone.
And if there's anybody virtual or watching later, just write one of these words or whatever word comes to you on a piece of paper. One more round. What? No, you're just holding the rock and contemplating the word, the feeling that comes up for you. We'll get to those other things later. We grieve the loss of what we love. We grieve the silence of those who could act and don't. We grieve the exhaustion of caring in a world that sometimes seems not to. We grieve what our children will inherit. We grieve what has already been lost. It's not a sign that we're broken, it's a sign that we're awake. And let's take another breath together. Thank you for feeling this. It takes courage to feel this in a room full of people. And you can hold your rock or you can set it on the chair beside you. We'll come back to it. And we move to our next stage, which is seeing with new eyes. Thank you. So we just saw what happened in Minneapolis. Think of it as people had all these gifts they didn't even realize they could harness, all the ways that they could act so simply that made a difference and gave them purpose. And because they were already connected, they could mobilize and they could act quickly. We could, as you, our pastors could. We could by phoning our representatives, screaming into the void. So this next part is where we need to move into the suspension of disbelief. And this is part of Joanna Macy's work, where we move backwards in time to visit with 7 generations before us. So in order to do that, I want to harness another practice from yoga. So a little sci-fi here. We're going to step into a time machine. And the way that we do this practice, it's called bee breath, but we place our fingers just in front of our earlobes and our fingers over our eyes. And if you press until it sort of sounds like you've got, you're listening to a shell that you picked up on the beach, your voice will sound different. And then we inhale, and we put our teeth together. Our teeth need to touch, and we inhale, and we hum like a bee. Inhale. Close your teeth, close your mouth. And we'll do it 2 more times. Last one. And if you're like me, I felt that vibration through my whole body. I do feel like I traveled somewhere. And next slide. Welcome to 7 generations ago, 1850, 176 years ago. We'll just go right to the next slide. Oh, here we are. Business as usual. A couple of people in an idyllic fishing boat, you know, lovely, taking care of their needs. The middle picture, the great unraveling, it's not the clearest picture. They didn't have good photography back then, 1850. That is an elevator crammed full of men and boys being brought up from a mine. Now, some of the information when I was doing my research here, child labor, 3 and 5-year-olds were laboring. 3 and 5-year-olds, poor babies. And then the Great Turning, we have care over extraction, power with community, creative action. This is a picture of a woman protesting all the women that got arrested and put in prison because they were asking for the right to vote. Yikes. Word cloud. Forced assimilation, genocide, debtors' prisons, black lung, robber barons, secession threats. We're not quite to Civil War yet. Wage theft, mental wards, dispossession, broken treaties. Oh my. So the Fugitive Slave Act has just passed, meaning that people who had reached freedom could be seized and returned to enslavement. Indigenous people are being forcibly removed from their ancestral lands, treaty after treaty broken. Languages and cultures destroyed, forced assimilation, children taken away from their parents to become un-Indigenous. Cities are so crowded. People live in tenements with like 20 to a room. People working in mines 12 hours a day. There's no labor protection. People aren't allowed to teach enslaved people to read. Higher education is closed to women and to Black Americans. Married women have no rights. They're literally owned by their husbands. No rights to earning, no custody of their own children. Medicine, law, ministry, all closed. And underneath it all, the land itself, which we didn't even have the words for, is being torn open. Forests are being clear cut. Species are being eliminated. Rivers fouled, mountains gutted for coal and ore. Some could see it clearly. And we're going to start talking about that. Next slide, 1850, the Great Turning. So here's the idea. We know that things got better, right? We're going back 7 years, and we know that things got better. And we're going to create a panel of 5 ancestors from that time who stepped into the fray, who worked in active hope without understanding what that concept was. So we have Dorothy Dix is traveling from jail to jail, which I didn't even mention, documenting what she finds and demanding reform. Horace Mann is fighting for free public schools. Frederick Douglass is publishing and speaking and refusing to stop. Elizabeth Cady Stanton has just organized the first Women's Right Convention. Frances Ellen Walker Harper is writing and lecturing and conducting freedom seekers on the Underground Railroad. Sarah Winnemucca is just a child watching the world of her people begin to fracture and already learning the languages she will need to fight back. And the transcendentalists are insisting, alongside the indigenous people, in what they have thought since the beginning of time. The earth is not a resource. She's alive, she is sacred, and we're destroying her. So the Great Turning is alive in 1850, fragile, embattled, uncertain of its outcome, but alive. Human rights, education, the fight for the land itself, and we're going to build our panel right now. So these are the 5 people I've invited to our panel. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, poet, abolitionist, suffragette, Methodist and Unitarian. She was born free in Baltimore in a slave state, one of the first African-American women published in the United States. She held 2 causes simultaneously: racial injustice and women's rights. At a time when white suffragists told her, you can't do both, pick one. She said, no, I'm going to do both. When the 15th Amendment gave Black men the right to vote but not women, the movement fractured, and she refused to abandon either cause. She organized, lectured, and showed up until she was 85 years old. Theodore Parker, Unitarian minister, abolitionist, transcendentalist, orator. He preached and organized and wrote and wore his body out. He helped finance John Brown's raid on the Harper's Ferry. He harbored fugitive slaves in his home. As a transcendentalist, he understood what was happening to the earth and the natural world, and that it was sacred and alive by the same forces destroying human dignity. And he was exiled for what he did. And he died in exile 1 year before the Civil War broke out. He never saw abolition. Sarah Winnemucca, Northern Paiute writer, activist, orator, educator from Nevada. She was born Thoka Matani, shellflower. Her people's spiritual tradition understood the land as sacred, all beings as kin, truth-telling as holy. She watched the world of her people fracture under westward expansion, land stolen, culture destroyed, her people forcibly removed and starved on reservations. For her people, the land was not property, it was kin. Her fight for her people and the earth were the same fight. She gave over 300 lectures. She learned multiple languages all across the country. And she wrote the first autobiography ever published by a Native American woman. Promises were made, treaties were made, promises were broken, treaties were broken. Frederick Douglass, everyone knows. Born enslaved, an abolitionist, orator, writer, AME Zion, American Methodist Episcopalian Zion, African American Methodist Episcopalian Zion. Born into slavery on a Maryland plantation, escaped at 20 with forged papers, spent the next 50 years as the most powerful abolitionist voice in America, writing, speaking, organizing, never stopping. He saw abolition, he saw Reconstruction, and then watched it dismantled. Kept going anyway. And Elizabeth Cady Stanton, orator, philosopher, abolitionist, suffragette, free thinker. Raised Presbyterian, she broke decisively from organized religion and grounded her faith in science, reason, and love of humanity. She organized the first women's right connection in Seneca in 1848. She wrote the Declaration of Sentiments and spent 54 years fighting for women's right to vote. And she died in 1902, 18 years before that was realized. So I need 5 volunteers, because what we're going to do now is we're going to ask each of them one question, and they're going to answer. And I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and we're going to meditate on that question, and they're going to send the answer to you, and you're going to share it with us. So I need 5 volunteers, and I have to get it out of my purse. Shall I just pick the front row? So I'll take the mic. Okay, so we're going to start with Frances Ellen Harper, and if we can go to the next slide. Our question for Frances is, what does it cost to refuse to leave anyone behind? And let's just take a moment, a beat on that question. Think it through. What does it cost to refuse to leave anyone behind? And now, Jeff, she's going to channel the answer to you on your piece of paper.
We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. The curse in its own soul.
And the next slide magically has her answer as well. And we'll move to the next one. Theodore Parker. How do you keep the faith when you cannot see the outcome? So we'll pause on that for a beat. How do you keep the faith when you cannot see the outcome? And Carolyn's going to channel his answer.
I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscious. And from what I see, I'm sure it bends towards justice.
Beautiful, thank you. This was quoted by MLK. 100 and something years later. All right, who do we have next? Oh, go back. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. Amen. Sarah Winnemucca, had anybody heard of her before? I got to go get that autobiography. So, tell me your name. What's your name? Ellie. Okay, Ellie, you're going to channel Sarah. How can you keep speaking out when the people in power refuse to hear you?
This will be easy since I have 2 ancestors who were Native women about this time. When I think of my past life and the bitter trials that I've endured, I can scarcely believe that I live, and yet I do. And with the help of him who notes the sparrows fall, I mean to fight for my downtrodden race while life lasts.
Who's next? Frederick. How do you keep going when the darkness does not lift? And Annie's going to channel his answer.
I'll have to channel more than that. He's black and a guy. So I have no doubt whatever of the future. I know there are times in the history of all reforms when the future looks dark. I have had 50 years of it, and yet I have not lost either heart or hope.
Thank you. Elizabeth Katie Stanton. How do you work for something you may never live to see? And Ross is going to channel Katie for us.
The moment we begin to fear the opinions of others and hesitate to tell the truth that is in us, and when from motives of policy we are silent when we should speak, the divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls.
Thank you. The divine floods of light and life no longer flow into our souls. It kind of brings us full circle back to Joanna Macy. I'm just going to put this down here. Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful. Really beautiful. So the next thing we do is people 7 generations from now are going to have questions for us, questions for you. That's why you have your index card and your black pen. So it's interesting because I was having a hard time figuring out what year it would be 7 generations from now. Because we can look back and say, oh, a generation is about 20, 25 years. But looking forward, people keep having children later. So I don't know. So I just went with the same number. So we're moving into the year 2200. Oh dear, they're looking back on us and look what they see. Gutted benefits, climate collapse, genocide, repeated extraction, mass incarceration, gerrymandering, book bans, pandemics, extinction, homelessness, outsourced intelligence, climate collapse, digital addiction, wage theft still, I think. I mean, Uber drivers, all those folks, they can't get insurance, and we won't go into the details, but so they're saying we solved it. From where they sit 176 years from now, looking at history, they know we survived it, we made a difference, we turned the corner, and maybe they're at a place now where they're at a crisis and they want to get some hope from us. So you don't have to answer these 5 questions, but pick the question that resonates with you. What did you refuse to accept? How did you hold on when things seemed to go from bad to worse? Where did you find your people? That's an easy one. How did you sustain your gratitude and love for the world? What did you bring to the turning? And it doesn't have to be grand. So let's just I'll give you a couple minutes and just see if you can write an answer to at least one of those questions.
Are we writing them as one of those 5 would say, or just from our own mind?
No, this is you. They're asking you. I don't have pictures of them. I don't know what they look like. Next time I do this, maybe I'll get that figured out. We don't know their names or anything, but they've time traveled to ask us these questions.
By the ones who circle round the trendy vine. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vines. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Okay. You can finish the rest later. And again, I would ask if there's 2 or 3 people that would like to share their answers. In the back?
In the back.
Hi, thank you. I picked the second question. How did you hold on, or how did you hold when things seemed to go from bad to worse? And my answer was a 4-part answer. I'll just go from in reverse order here. First of all, I focused on taking myself because, as they know, you have to take care of yourself so you can help others. Secondly, I focused on building community, coming here and in other ways, because you have to find people who are like-minded, but also who can help you move forward in the direction you want to go. For years, I've had people mention this to me. I've done this consistently for years. I speak out on the need to eliminate plastic. Plastic is a curse on the face of the earth. It injures all of us, including the creatures. I model all of that. As you saw me, if you saw me eat, I always eat my bamboo utensils. And speaking out on the need to eat a plant-based diet, so we not only can reduce climate change, but we can feed all the people of the world. We need to all eat plant-based. That's it.
Thank you.
I answered, what did you bring to the turning? All I bring is the light so deep in my heart. Let go and help even just one person, one animal, one plant. And the light of love is passed along. It is the only way.
Thank you. And just one more.
Well, I picked the one that you so wisely said was easy. Where did you find your people? In the UU faith communities. Where else? It's a no-brainer.
All right. Thank you. So now it's time to go back to your rock and your white pen. And you're going to turn your rock over and put whatever you want on it, the gift. It can be a word. It can be light. I don't think you can quite write everything you said on the bottom of your rock, but the spirit of what you feel in your heart is your gift. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Your gift. What's the gift you're bringing to the great turning? A word or 3 words. It could be light. Could be generosity. Could be resilience. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what do you think you bring? And these dry pretty fast. So this one we won't share. This is between you and Earth. And what we're going to do when we leave here is we're going to go on the other side of the welcome blue canopy is our tiny little piece olive garden. And of course, you can take your rock home with you if you prefer, but if you would like to take your stone out and put it under the olive tree. Grief down, hope up. We'll make a pile there. So I think what we'll do is because we're Unitarians and we know how to sing when there's words up there, right? So this song that I've been playing, We Shall Be Known by Mamuse, is written about this exactly. These people are aligned with, these two women of Mamuse are aligned with Joanna Macy's work, and one of them is roommates with one of the people who I took the training from. So we got to sing this also on our Zoom classes. I'm not so much a singer, but it doesn't matter. So here's the words. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these flames. And if you want, you can start singing, and as it goes, when you're ready, you can stand up and walk out singing. Shake them up out there as we all walk out singing. And go and place your stone under the tree. Thank you for coming today. Really wanted to share this with you, and I hope you find it to be helpful in your life. I'll get it started again. Oh, I will leave it up. I will leave it up. Yeah, you can take a picture with your phone. I'm not a good DJ. Here we go. Ready?
Company we keep by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Go forth and act. Go forth with active hope. Thank you.